A recent Reuters Ipsos poll found that only 1 in 4 Americans currently supports U.S. strikes on Iran. And with Trump's approval ratings at an all-time low, it feels terrifyingly likely that the Republican Party isn't exactly planning for free and fair midterms.
I'll tell you what, I have never had more compliments on something I did. People felt it's something that had to be done. So if we have a little high oil prices for a little while, but as soon as this ends, those prices are going to drop, I believe, lower than even before.
There absolutely was an imminent threat, and the imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us. And we were not going to sit there and absorb a blow before we responded, because the Department of War assessed that if we did that, if we waited for them to hit us first after they were attacked, and by someone else, Israel attacked them, they hit us first, and we waited for them to hit us, we would suffer more casualties and more deaths. We went proactively in a defensive way to prevent them from inflicting higher damage. Had we not done so, there would have been hearings on Capitol Hill about how we knew that this was going to happen and we didn't act preemptively to prevent more casualties and more loss of life.
What does pulling back from the precipice look like in your mind, and how could that be achieved in these next, tumultuous days?
Well, from my perspective, having just talked to the Iranian foreign minister, so from their perspective, they're one party to this. If it stops, they'll go back to negotiations. He told me, we haven't given up on negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and what does escalation look like on the Iranian part? Like, what do you think they're willing to do?
Well, he wouldn't tell me straight out, but they have threatened if the U.S. gets involved. And as Ben laid out, the U.S. has a lot of bases. It has 40,000 troops, I believe, or something like that, personnel in that region.
And more right now. We're sending more.
Yeah, and it's considered that Iraq, militias in Iraq, Iran-backed militias, perhaps the first line of attack on various, American targets. But it's not going to be good.
Ben?
De-escalation involves the United States stepping in and saying Israel has to stop the military operation, and we're going to make a nuclear deal with the Iranians. And the Iranians, get crappy terms, and this thing is just kind of put on the freezer. If it doesn't happen, and I think if the U.S. bombs Fordo, to end where Christian started, there's real meaningful pride in Iran. It's a revolutionary government. Right. It's a government that went through the Iran-Iraq war. So the idea of unconditional surrender, as Trump tweeted, is just not in their DNA.
Or any countries.
And again, we might not see, maybe they go underground with their nuclear program and they pretend like they're making deals, but they pop up in a year or two like North Korea did with a nuclear weapon. Maybe the response comes through an immediate flood of attacks against U.S. service members or oil fields. Maybe it comes later in terrorist actions. But the idea that this is going to be neat and clean and that they're just going to surrender, or that I saw Newt Gingrich post, now's the time for a moderate, inclusive, secular, democratic government in Iran. I'm like, we don't even have one of those in the United States.
Many have expressed concerns with how Secretary Hegseth has managed the Pentagon, prioritizing loyalty over competence, decimating the military and civilian workforce, and undermining the effectiveness of the Department of Defense. Given that chaos, is now an appropriate time to gift the Department of Defense an additional $150 billion on top of the $858 billion that they already received in FY 2025? Do you have any concerns about this?
I do, and I don't believe so. And that was a central argument that House Democrats made during the markup. We have seen Secretary Hegseth struggling to run the department well. I think it's up to 5 of his employees have quit or been fired in the first 3 or 4 months. They've had highly critical things to say about the way the department is being run. Obviously, they don't know how to control secure information securely. And again, they don't have a plan in terms of where they're planning to spend. We don't even have an FY26 full budget yet. So, no, I don't think this department can be trusted.
But the idea that a country like Iran, which is no threat to the United States, or a country like Venezuela, which is no
Iran is no threat to the United States.
No, it's not. Why is it a threat to the United States?
Well, maybe because the Ayatollah has repeatedly threatened the United States publicly.
He can repeatedly threaten the United States till he's blue in the face. Who cares? The question is, does he have the military capability to do harm to us?
Well, they've had the military capability.
In fact, if it wasn't for the...
But what they have done, they funneled a huge amount of money into propping up terrorist organizations all around the Middle East, all of whom are wedded to the obliteration of Israel, which is America's main ally in the region, and has a lot of interest, mutual interests. Now, you may not like it, but that's the reality. And so, yes, they represent a threat to one of America's main allies and to Americans who live in Israel, for example, to American service people who work with Israelis. Of course they do.
But you're making the argument that they're not a threat to the United States, they're a threat to Israel. And because we're joined at the hip with Israel, anything that's a threat to Israel is a threat to the United States. I don't buy that argument. I'm an American firster. I care about the U.S. national interest. And it is not in our national interest to have this conflictual relationship with Iran. And if it weren't for the fact that the Israelis have so much power in the United States and insist that we keep Iran as an adversary, we would otherwise have good relations with the Iranians.
Just think about this. How crazy it is that they want to sit there and try to convince you that no, now it's because we really care about the people. We're just really concerned. We have to overthrow the regime if they shoot their own protesters. After we're sending tens of billions of dollars to Netanyahu's regime. Because what? We care so much about Persian blood, just not Arab blood? Like, does anybody believe this? Like, how stupid or brainwashed do you have to believe that John McCain becomes a humanitarian? I understand he's dead, but they're all John McCain. So, like, John McCain becomes a bleeding heart hippie, but think about this, Rob. We can prop up Israel as they slaughter like 100,000 innocent people. But we become humanitarians. But coincidentally, we become humanitarians when it's, Israel's biggest regional rival.
This is as serious as it gets. This is war and peace. They told us in that room that there are going to be more Americans that are going to die, that they are not in the short run going to be able to stop these drones that are going to continue to fly into the Middle East. We have to have a debate in the United States Senate on an authorization of military force. It will likely fail. And we shouldn't be voting to proceed to other pieces of legislation until we get a debate on this deeply unpopular, immoral, and illegal war with Iran.
The hashtag #SendBarron is drawing attention to the infuriating fact that fortunate sons like Trump's children won't be sent to war, but everyday Americans will lose their lives to the whims of a president who completely lacks morals and seems to have completely lost his mind as well. The Trump administration is still desperately trying to come up with the reasons that they decided to follow Israel's lead and bomb Iran. They're giving different excuses depending on who's asking and what minute it is, but even their most ardent supporters are starting to see that this isn't exactly America first. Whether the invasion is an attempt to distract us from Trump's million mentions in the Epstein files, a way to deflect attention from Israel's ongoing genocide and forced starvation of Palestinians, or a favor called in by one of the many nations that have bribed Donald Trump and his family with crypto, as well as wildly extravagant gifts as well, whatever it is, it doesn't pass the smell test. The level of corruption in this administration makes it difficult to establish exactly what's going on and who stands to benefit. Now, we know that the idea that Iran is a month or a week or a day away from nuclear weapons, that line is BS. And most of us remember that Israel and the US colluded to lie to the public about Iraq having weapons of mass destruction back more than 20 years ago. We've seen it before, and this time, even the complicity of mainstream media won't be enough to sell yet another stupid forever war.